A very warm welcome to all. Thanks for joining us for this Go Global webinar today on digital opportunities in Qatar, jointly organized by SGTech and also Qatar Financial Centre. Nestled within the Arabian Gulf, Qatar is actually one of the world's most wealthiest energy-producing nations, with the rapid adoption of digital technologies, excellent infrastructure, stable economy, and also the business-friendly environment. Qatar is actually positioning itself as a destination for digital innovation and growth. Qatar was among the first in the world, in fact, to have a 5G commercial network, which currently covers more than 90% of its populated region. Digital enablement is the key theme among several of its mega projects coming up in Qatar currently. So today we'll hear from 4 great speakers. Qatar Financial Centre will be covering opportunities in Qatar. Digital transformation projects will be covered by Ooredoo, and we'll have CrimsonLogic to share about their success story in the region. And lastly, we'll have Enterprise Singapore to share on their market assistance for your market expansion. So before we begin, I would like to highlight some house rules for this session. Firstly, a gentle reminder that this webinar will be recorded for marketing and archival purposes. The recording will be uploaded onto SGTech's website and also be shared with all the attendees today. Next, you can also type your questions inside the Zoom's Q&A box throughout the webinar. We will select questions that can be answered during the end after all the presenters have shared their presentations. So please state your company name as well as your name before asking the questions. All right, so now let's invite Qatar Financial Centre, Abby, to do the first presentation, please.
Thank you. Let me share my screen. Thank you, SGTech, for having me today. I'm Abby Chen, Vice President Business Development at the Qatar Financial Centre. I also sit on the committee of the Singapore Business Council in Qatar. It's a pleasure to have the chance to share with all of you today about Qatar and some of the relevant business opportunities that you may be interested in. So the most important question, why Qatar? First of all, Qatar has a strong and stable economy. Qatar is a relatively small country just like Singapore, but has one of the world's highest GDP per capita, ahead of Singapore actually, and ahead of US, Australia, UK, and UAE as well. So this allows Qatar's economy to continue to be in a healthy position despite the ongoing pandemic. Qatar also has many free trade agreements with over 80 countries, such as China, Korea, Australia, New Zealand, and of course, Singapore. And Qatar is the only Middle Eastern country that Singapore has maintained a close bilateral and trade relationship at a high level. In 2019, Qatar was actually Singapore's 3rd largest trading partner in the Middle East. There are also increasing opportunities as Qatar diversifies its economy. So Qatar offers a sizable digital opportunity growing faster than the Middle East average due to its focus on driving the digital sector as part of the Qatar National Vision 2030, which is a national strategy to help diversify economy away from its dependency on oil and gas. Some key sectors include logistics and tourism, and of course, technology. One of the infrastructure developments that enabled all these was the development of Hamad International Airport, which is a key component that establishes Qatar as a cargo, business, and travel hub. A decade ago, only 5 million people passed through the old airport, and now the average is almost 30 million per year. This is a significant achievement made possible by the excellent airport's infrastructure, as well as top-notch service provided by Qatar Airways that provides direct flights to over 150 destinations. That's a pre-COVID figure. In fact, it was just announced yesterday that the airport is the first in the region to be awarded 5-star COVID-19 ratings by Skytrax due to its effective and exceptional policies to protect passengers from the virus. This, plus the fact that Qatar will be the host of the World Cup 2022, sets the path for a greater focus on sports, technology, and media. So there is also a strong track record of FDI and international companies setting up in Qatar. For example, Microsoft, Google, Mitsubishi, etc. Microsoft and Google are already present in Qatar, but they are set to expand further and launch data centers in Qatar. Qatar also has a strategic location, and with the pandemic, it's really important to focus solely on your expanding, because focusing just on your home market as your main source of profits could be quite risky. International expansion now plays an important role in balancing your P&L. For Singaporean companies looking to expand to a new market as part of the recovering strategy, Qatar provides a convenient location for businesses aiming to target the MENA regions, Middle East and North Africa. Located between the Eastern and Western time zones, it serves as a favorable connecting point for businesses looking to expand westward. In fact, many companies actually set up in Qatar and use Qatar as a stopover before heading to Europe or USA. So it's a really good springboard to the MENA region for your business. Other than for business reasons, I also like to flag out what it's like to live in Qatar. What you're seeing is a popular area for residents in Qatar where most expats live. For accommodation choices, there are many high-rise apartments like condominiums, like the one you see in the photo. And in terms of cost, it's actually very friendly as well. So in terms of Sing dollars, about 3K for a one bedroom with over 1,000 square feet and sea view, private beach. It's like living in the Sentosa Cove, but just 3K a month, which is really good. And as you can see in the picture as well, it's almost blue sky for 365 days. There is no heavy downpour like the ones in Singapore. In summer, it's hot and humid just like Singapore, but we have winter. So in winter, it's very pleasant at about 17, 18 degrees and it's dry. And best of all, there is no income tax. So you don't have to worry about paying IRAs. And for lifestyle-wise, it's also really friendly. So for example, if you want to buy a Mercedes C-Class or BMW 7 Series, you only need to fork out about Sing dollars 100K, and there is no COE to pay for, no tax. And in terms of pumping petrol, for full tank petrol is only 20 Sing dollars, which is cheaper than a carton of beer. And parking is almost free 99% of the time. I mean, the only downside is that you probably won't get your laksa or xiao long bao, but I think the cheap car prices and great housing options more than make up for it. So many of you might be very interested to find out how Qatar cope with COVID-19. While Qatar, like the rest of the world, is affected by the pandemic, but then, Qatar has very efficient policies to curb the spread. Right now, the average daily new cases is about 200 plus daily. However, Qatar has the world's lowest death rates, which is on par with Singapore, due to its extensive testing, a young population, and large healthcare spending. Qatar's economy has shown resilience before and has grown more self-sufficient since then, rebuilding its reserves and bringing the balance to the budget to the lowest in the Gulf due to rebuilding its reserves quickly with the oil prices. And in fact, if you look at the chart, it shows the sectors which are less affected by COVID. Like the rest of the world, everyone in Qatar was affected by the way they live and work, and hence technology has actually picked up really rapidly during COVID. The three main sectors that really grew during the pandemic is number one, of course, the ICT sectors, followed by the financial services, which include fintech and digital payments. And third is public services, which includes digitalization of governments. Looking ahead, Qatar is actually positioned for stronger economic expansion as compared to its neighbors due to its reason being the host of the World Cup, which will see about 1.5 million visitors, and the ongoing North Field expansion project, which has raised Qatar's LNG production capacity. There will also be the launch of two large free zones, one near the airport and one near the seaport. All these factors will attract further FDI and investment from the international companies, and that drives the economic expansion in the decade ahead. So this places Qatar ahead of its neighbors in terms of attractiveness for your company to set up and use it as a base for the MENA region. So a little bit about Qatar Financial Centre. So for many of you who may be confused about the system in Qatar and in the Middle East generally, there are actually multiple licensing platforms in Qatar and the Middle East. So in the Singapore context, that means you actually have multiple ACRA. You don't only have one, but multiple. So it's very important to understand the benefits and advantages of the different aircraft before you choose the right licensing platform for you to set up your company. So for QFC, we are one of the three main licensing platforms. We are the regulatory body and also licensing body. So it's a bit like ACRA and the MAS combined. The other two is the state of Qatar and Qatar Free Zone authorities. So for us, it's important to distinguish that we are an onshore platform. We are not offshore like most of the free zones in UAE. And for us, we actually allow the company to do business with state entities and participate in local tenders. So there are about over 1,000 companies registered with us currently. And for the combined total assets, there are over 20 billion US dollars. So why set up with Qatar Financial Centre? So as mentioned before, there are three main ones, and I would like to flag up the differences between the three of us. So for us, we offer up to 100% foreign ownership. So if you're a company looking to set up with a state entity, you actually need a Qatari partner who will take up 51% of ownership. So if you want full control of your company, yep, think about setting up with QFC. We also offer only 10% corporate tax on local profits. So if you wish to do business with international companies, those overseas profits are not taxed. That's why many international companies choose to set up with us and use it as a base, because it's easy to do business with overseas companies. And we also offer a legal environment based on the English common law, not the local laws. So that makes it easier for your international clients to understand the legal structure and contracts. We also allow 100% repatriation of profits, and you can trade in any currency, example, Sing dollars, Chinese renminbi, or US dollars, etc. So here are some of the key opportunities that exist in Qatar. There are a few sectors with good business opportunities, but I'll focus more on the ones that are of interest to our attendees today. So I won't focus so much on media and sports. In terms of investment, there is actually significant investment being made in the ICT infrastructure development in areas such as cloud, cellular infrastructure, and broadband infrastructure. Qatar also has one of the highest per capita spending in the region on the digital front at 12 to 13 times of the MENA average. There is also the national vision that I mentioned earlier, and some of the key focus verticals include transportation, logistics, and healthcare. Qatar also offers opportunity to partner and do business with major players, both local and global. There is a growing digital ecosystem in Qatar, so leading MNCs like Microsoft, Google, Cisco are actively strengthening the digital landscape here. You will also get to work with big local companies. For example, as Ying mentioned before, the world's first commercial 5G network is launched by Ooredoo in Qatar in 2018, and you'll hear more about that from Vlad at Ooredoo later on in this session. And of course, there is a growing cluster for startups and SMEs. In fact, one of the startups that set up in Qatar won the Asia Startup Competition held by Sports Singapore in September earlier this year. There is also support from public and private entities. So startup could seek support from accelerators, incubators, R&D centers, and financiers such as banks and VC funds. The Qatari government also envisions spending more than 50 billion US dollars across multiple concept cities, which offer extensive digital opportunities in areas such as smart living and smart environment. So things like drone-based, water management, security system, etc. The government also has a smart city program called TASMO, which offers numerous tenders, but that actually might require a separate presentation. So anyone who is interested about the tender catalog, I'll be happy to share more over email. I'll say the government sector accounts for a majority of Qatar's enterprise IT spending in areas such as software, IoT, cloud, and cybersecurity. However, there is a gap in supply chain, and this spells opportunities for you. Number one, there is limited in-country talent, so there is a strong potential to attract international digital companies to address the market gap. In terms of current landscape, there is also limited supply in the areas of e-commerce, fintech, cybersecurity, and AI. I'll give you some examples. So for a country where majority of the population drives, there's actually not much smart parking applications. I actually kind of missed the red and green lights indicator telling you where you can park your car. For ride-hailing apps, there is Uber here, but the security layer is also different. So for example, when you call an Uber, your personal mobile number will be shared with the driver. So unlike the ones in Singapore where your number will be masked by a central number. There is also no facial recognition in bank apps or any apps really. There is no digital bank tokens. So yes, I'm still using the dongle. A lot of things are still very manual here. So for example, pre-COVID, you can't tap your credit card on the machines. And even until now, you can't use your phone to tap for payment, and it's really non-existent. There is also no PayLah or the equivalent here, as there is a low affinity for digital payment. So for example, recently I made a car purchase and the car company actually asked me to use my credit card to make a payment instead of bank transfer. E-commerce is also not big here. So pre-COVID, big brands like Muji, IKEA, they don't have any e-commerce apps or website for people to make purchase. There is also no equivalent of Carousel or Q10 here. Online booking system that also doesn't exist for many places like hospitals, clinics, and spas. And in terms of potential customer base, 90% of the population in Qatar are actually expats, most of which are dominated by Filipinos, Indians, Africans, followed by Americans and Europeans. And many of these people are kind of middle income family. So this makes up your majority customer base in Qatar. So here's a snapshot of what kind of companies actually set up with Qatar Financial Centre. So we mainly license what we call professional services. And most of these companies come from US, UK, India traditionally. So the darker colors on the map indicate more companies coming from those regions. So we really like to see more Asian companies coming to Qatar and set up the business here. In terms of how do you set up here, is really easy. Everything is digital. You don't have to come to Qatar physically. So it's only just 2 steps. So number 1, fill out the digital application form, which is done online. There will be an internal review process. And within a week, you actually receive your license and begin operations. There is no minimum capital requirements, although there is some requirements for auditing and filing obligations, just like how you set up company in the rest of the world. So this marks the end of my presentation. Here is my contact details if you have any questions or if you're interested to find out more about setting up in Qatar. Apart from guidance provided by the QFC, as I mentioned before, I'm also part of the Singapore Business Council in Qatar. And all of the EXCO members, all of whom are business leaders in their respective fields like CEO and CFOs, will be more than happy to provide support for you should you consider about doing business in Qatar. So thank you for your attention, and I now hand over to the next speaker.
Thank you, Abby. So now can we invite Vlad from Ooredoo to do the sharing, please?
Yes. Good afternoon, all. Hope my screen is visible.
Yes.
Good afternoon, all, and thank you one more time to SGTech and the QFC and the Singapore Embassy for inviting Ooredoo here. Looking forward to having a fruitful discussion, and hope you can find this session informative. Before we start and deep dive into today's topic, I just want to take a few minutes to present Ooredoo, who we are, what are we doing, and what's our role within the state of Qatar, and how we can support in this initiative. First of all, Ooredoo is the leading and largest ICT service provider. We've been here for more than 40 years, and we are seen as the trustful and reliable partner for the government and for each and every businesses here in Qatar. As Abby said, Ooredoo was the first company in the world that launched the 5G network. And the 5G network is complemented by our fiber network, with which we can link each and every company with the outside world. So we are very well present, and we are seen as the company that connects everything here in Qatar from a telecommunication perspective. Another area where we are actively looking for partners and we are investing is the data center and cloud services. As Ooredoo, we're looking into a multi-cloud, hybrid cloud environments. Microsoft and Google are our partners, along with other global partners, Dell, Atos, just to mention a few. And to touch a little bit the partnership area, Ooredoo wouldn't have been here without the local, regional, and global partners. Strategic partnerships, it's one of our main key areas and strategic pillars, because we need the skill set, we need the expertise of different companies, and together we can bring that best of breed, best solutions in Qatar to the Qatari businesses. So we see the partnership as one strategic pillar, as I mentioned before. Another area of services of Ooredoo, it's represented by security services. Here we have quite a comprehensive portfolio, starting from a single solution, starting with, for example, as an antivirus, up to a complex security operations center, where you need the people, you need the technology, you need the automation in place in order to offer a critical service. And just to give you an example, this security services will be critical during the World Cup. I remember that for the previous World Cup, that the number of cyber attacks and increased exponentially during the event. So we as Ooredoo were positioned strategically in this area, because we have a local team, of course, with regional partners and other offices as well. So we can have a blend solution and a very good service to our customers. Another area just to mention, and this is something that is quite of highly interest, is IoT services. IoT services, it's a big area, it's a big ecosystem, and we need multiple partners in order to offer bespoke solutions to different verticals. Here we're talking about waste management, smart parking, crowd management. We're talking about different solutions for construction, for logistic companies, and many others. We have a set of partners with whom we are working, but at the same time, we are open to new ideas, to new solutions. And picking up on what Abby said before, the digitalization of Qatari companies, it's now, I think it's being accelerated perhaps by the current pandemic. Before it was accelerated, it was started, but primarily on the top end of the customers, not for the SOHO and SMEs. But now, having in mind the current circumstances, overall digitalization is growing exponentially. So this is an area of high interest to us. Moving forward, so what makes Qatar unique, and why is this focus on the smart nation? To give you a little bit of context, from the climate perspective, the environment is harsh. The average temperature is high, humidity as well, and so farming is quite an issue here. To give you an idea, in the same time, the geopolitical environment is challenging as well. And before 2017, 20%, for example, of dairy and 10% of the poultry products were done here in Qatar. Now, Qatar is self-reliant, self-sufficient from dairy and poultry services. So there was a lot of investment done in smart farming area. And we as Ooredoo, we are not investing into farming because this is not our focus, but we are the technology enabler of this solution and many others areas. So we are seen as the local company that can support each and every vertical, each and every company in optimizing and growing their business. From population perspective, the population grew quite considerably what is here on this slide, like 64% over 8-9 years. And that is mainly driven by the economic growth as well. That grew quite considerably to almost 192 billion. That is the figure from 2018. Of course, this investment is mainly driven by the upcoming event in 2022, the World Cup, which is less than 2 years from now. And there is in relation to infrastructure and everything that has to be ready by the World Cup. So this is why Qatar is positioned strategically in terms of growing and supporting the businesses, of course, with FDIs coming from exterior. So where is Qatar heading, and how is Ooredoo supporting? It's an initiative that was mentioned by Abby before, is TASMU program, and I invite you to check the website that is listed on the slide. So TASMU is a Smart Nation program run by Ministry of Transportation and Communication. And Ooredoo has been awarded this contract. Is a 10-year length contract that shows the proven delivery methodology and the trust that the government has in Ooredoo. So what is TASMU in a nutshell? It's a Smart Nation program, and the current step of that is to build a platform of platforms, how it's being called. A platform that can integrate with each and every ministry department, like Ministry of Interior, Ministry of Public Health, and at the same time integrated with different banks and different institutions like Microsoft and other key strategic partners in order to offer the platform for a smart nation. So Ooredoo currently is working on developing that compute power, that central platform, in order to host many different applications. So a few use cases that you're going to see on the website, and I'm just mentioning here a few. It's about transportation, so smart biking, car sharing, bike sharing, single transport paths are just a few of the use cases that are that will be made available by the TASMU program. And here is an area where we need partners. Like I said, if you look on the website, you're going to see what is the roadmap coming from Ministry of MOTC, and this is an open conversation for us. We need partners that can have that expertise, that domain expertise and skill set, in order to offer that the best solution for Qatar. Another area, part of the TASMU, is logistics. Here we're talking about warehousing, marketplace, global supply chain solution, track and trace, smart customs. And I know that Singapore is very well, it's very well developed, to put it this way. And definitely there are areas that Qatar and Singapore can work together. Healthcare is another area, part of the TASMU, and here we're talking about virtual consultation, smart ambulance, connected pharmacy solution, and many others. Like I said, there are plenty of use cases that are listed there, and those use cases will be made available in terms of tendering over the next period. Of course, let's not forget the sports area with the upcoming events. So there is plenty of investment and many solutions that are being brought forward by the ministry. Another project where Ooredoo is working closely with partners is the smart communities and cities. Lusail City is a new area, new development in Doha, part of the overall Doha metropolitan area, and this is a smart city. Everything, smart lightings, public Wi-Fi, all what you perhaps can envisage wants to be part of this solution. And Ooredoo is positioned strategically because they are the, let's say, the technology enabler for this project. To move forward, hospitality is a critical area, having in mind the upcoming event in less than 2 years. And with the estimated number of tourists of 1.5, 1.8 million over the course of 2 months, more or less, that will more or less, that represents an increase of 50–80% of the population. Of course, the infrastructure needs to be ready, hotels, housing, and all the systems, to put it this way, in order to offer a seamless experience for the tourists. So another solution that we're working closely is to offer a seamless experience for any visitor the moment that they touch down and they land in the airport, taking a car, knowing what to do, where to go, and how to reach any sport events. And just to give you an example, Qatar will be the first country ever that is organizing the World Cup, where as a fan you have a chance to attend 2–3 games in the same day, because the distance between the stadium will be like 5, 10, or 20 kilometers. You can reach quite fast the other venue. So of course, with the crowd management solution that will be in place, with the smart transportation solution, so there is a lot of investment and there is a lot of solution that we can work together. From the healthcare perspective, like I said, one of the vision of Qatar 2030 is for Doha and Qatar to be a hub in terms of healthcare, premium healthcare, and there is plenty of investment that is being done by the ministry. And of course, Ooredoo strategic position to strategically, because it can connect each and every company and can bring the right partner. The last piece that I want to touch on this slide is more or less the digital transformation. And here, the area that I'd like to touch is more or less for the software SMEs. Their digitalization journey, I think, for the majority, it starts right now. And for one company, digital transformation can represent a website and with the e-commerce space, while for larger companies, we are talking about complete automation of their internal processes, artificial intelligence, machine learning, and so on and so forth. We have the capabilities to offer, so we have the groundwork, but we need the partners in order to enhance our expertise with the right solutions. Before I close my part today, just wanted to give you an idea of what are we looking for. So our portfolio is we have a huge ecosystem of partners, but those partners are handpicked. Why? Because we know what we're bringing to the table. We as Ooredoo, we are the Qatari provider with the global presence as well. We are seen as the trustful and reliable partner to the government and to each and every entity. In the same time, what we are looking for, we're looking for best of breed solutions, reliable partners that have a proven solution, and they're able to work with us in having that partnership in order to launch and to provide a very good customer experience to our to each and every Qatari-based company. So we are welcoming you. We are welcoming any international players to work with us and to have a strong proposition to our customers. That being said, that's the end of my presentation today. You can see my contact details. I'm looking forward to answering to your questions later during the session, and please feel free to contact me for any potential opportunities we might conduct. Thank you.
Thank you, Vlad, for the presentation. Next up, can we welcome CrimsonLogic, Mr. Sokin Wai, for the presentation, please? Mr. Ken will be sharing based on his experience in Qatar.
Yes, thanks, Ying. I don't have slides, so maybe I'll just talk. Hi, everyone. Firstly, just thank everybody for this opportunity put together by SGTech and QFC. I think it's a good thing to do right now when we're all stuck in front of screens at home to think about next steps. What's going to happen when the recovery comes? What's going to happen when travel is possible? What's going to happen when social distancing is no longer a requirement? So it's really looking ahead, and I think it's a good time to really start ourselves thinking about not just next week, next month, but next year and the year after. So let me first start by telling you a little bit about CrimsonLogic, who we are and what we do. We are, you can say, an old tech company. I think older than Yinging, definitely for sure, formed 32 years ago. We pioneered the first single window for trade in the world, and then took the solution worldwide and now implemented it in 19 countries worldwide, all over the world, including Qatar. I currently have 19 subsidiaries globally, but not in your usual markets, but in interesting adventurous countries like Rwanda, Botswana, Chile, Trinidad and Tobago, Peru, Suriname. I bet nobody knows where Suriname is. Bahamas. And yes, of course, the Gulf countries too. We have offices in Saudi, in Oman, in Abu Dhabi, and Bahrain. And we were planning to open a subsidiary in Qatar, but COVID kind of interrupted our plans. Now listening to Abby, I had to rethink. Because now I understand why there's so many people from Qatar calling me, because there are different akras there. So we need to figure out which one to go with. We currently do business in over 40 countries worldwide. So we are more international than local. Our solutions are digital solutions for trade, for judiciary, for government services and authentication. We run the authentication, the equivalent of SingPass for Bahrain government. We do licensing, we do business registration, and our customers are primarily governments. We first ventured in the Gulf region in 2002, and we secured our first project in Qatar in 2008. And this was a single window for their customs. It was a big project. And the project was won in partnership with a local company there called Malamatia. Now we've now won the second project in Qatar, and that was for the Qatar International Court and Dispute Resolution Center, QICDRC. So I guess the key question in everybody's mind is, what is Qatar like? Is it easy to do business? What should I be concerned about? And do I believe everything Abby says? Well, I can confirm that what she says is true. We've been there. I mean, firstly, Qatar is a beautiful country. I mean, Doha is a sprawling metropolis with both elements of old and new working seamlessly together. For Singaporeans, I need to add that the food there is excellent. While you may not be able to get xiao long bao, there's a lot of different cuisines there, and the seafood there is just unbelievably fresh. And if you crave local food, you can get nasi lemak at a place called Holiday Villa. So it's not that bad. And the food is really, really excellent. And Qatar Airlines is really, really great. I mean, it gives SQ a run for your money. Hamad International Airport is excellent. And if you're a SQ PPS member, I believe Qatar matches your level. So if you're PPS Solitaire, you can get to use a first class lounge, and it's really unbelievably luxurious, which also has museum pieces exhibited there. I mean, wonderful, wonderful experience. Now, as Lars said, it is hot. It can get hot in summer, but the weather is actually extremely nice in winter. I mean, December to February, I think is the best time to visit the country, with temperatures hovering around 15 to 20 degrees centigrade. Now, the elephant in the room, of course, is the ongoing dispute with Saudi, UAE, Egypt, with Qatar, and that is concerned. That makes things a little bit more challenging, is that while you make Qatar your base, it currently can't be the base for your Gulf business because traveling becomes a little bit more difficult. But this is a new normal. I think Qatar has adapted well to it. We can still work in the other UAE market, but maybe use Muscat as a transition point. Is it an easy place to do business? I would say yes. I mean, we do business in over 40 countries. I think Qatar ranks top 5, I guess. Relatively easy, relatively smooth to do business. Hardest place to do business, of course, Singapore, number 40 on the list. It's true. It's very competitive, very tough. But I guess there's always a worry about the known unknowns, and then of course the different business practices. How do you overcome? How do you align? I've always found Qataris very straight and forward. They're very very straightforward, very easy, relatively easy to deal with. They tell you what's on your mind. You can have good discussions there. There's also a huge expat population there and community there. So most probably, whatever you do there, you end up working with the expat community. So it's easy. English is a good medium to use. You can do business effectively, talking and getting along with English. And of course, when you talk about doing business in a country, I mean, the real acid test comes when something doesn't go right. So we talked about my project for customs, and like all big projects, there will be challenges, and there was challenges. And really, it's only through tough times that you get to see the essence of a partnership, to see how issues get resolved and how you move forward. I think, and in my experience working with Qatar and Qatar Customs, we found that it worked very well. I was very impressed. There's an organization there called ICT Qatar, the equivalent of the IMDA, GovTech kind of role, and they help intervene, help make sure that the expectations were managed, put everybody in their place, and then we got the project smoothly rolled out. Then my second project in Qatar was with the courts. I would regard this as a best practice. Those of you in IT knows that whenever we see the customer, we produce this nice project plan, and almost 9 out of 10 times, a month after the project starts, we throw that out and we have a new revised project plan. But in Qatar, for the QIC DRC project, it went smoothly, flawlessly. From award to implementation, we did it in 9 months. And in one of the few projects that we've ever done, I admit that followed the plan exactly. There was no delay and totally smooth, and everything went like clockwork. So we have good experiences in Qatar. Now, as Singaporeans move out and think about doing business outside the country, what should they be concerned about? I think understanding local culture is important. Understanding announcers is important. That's why when we were working our projects there, we had Arab-speaking staff. They helped a lot because having people who can speak in Arab also helps bridge the gap, because it's not just people speaking English, but speaking and being comfortable in speaking Arab actually helps the conversation going. And you'll find that it's quite easy to hire native Arabic speakers there. Not the Qataris themselves, because Qataris are very, very expensive, but there are Syrians there, there are Egyptians there. So there's a good expat pool of Arab-speaking professionals that you can find and use to help you with the project. And of course, when you're in a new country, it's important to get a partner. We started with partnership in Malamatia, and it worked well. And then, if we look back in our 12 years in Qatar, I would say that we had a great experience. I think we were on the verge of setting up our office in Qatar, but like everyone else, I think COVID had a different idea, threw a curveball, so we now need to rethink our plans. We will still set up our office, but an interesting dynamic has changed. In the past, I would think about the size of my office. Right now, I mean, there's a question: do I really need an office at all? Maybe a desk would be good enough. So in summary, we had good experience in Qatar. We had good experience overall in the Gulf region, and we'd encourage everyone to go explore opportunities. And especially for Qatar, I think it's good that you start now, so that by the time November, December 2022 comes, you have a legitimate reason to be there for about a month to work out your business deals. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Saw, for the sharing. Let us now welcome Adriana from Enterprise Singapore to share about how Enterprise Singapore can partner you to grow your business in different markets.
Thank you, Ying. All right, let me just share my screen. Second. Could everyone see my screen?
Yes, yes.
Okay, great. Okay. Thank you again, Ying. Hello, everyone. This is Adriana from Enterprise Singapore, and I'm glad that I'm able to share with you all today on how Enterprise Singapore assists our companies in their growth journey. So Enterprise Singapore is a statutory board under the Ministry of Trade and Industry, and our mission is to help local companies build capabilities and capture new opportunities across sectors and markets so as to be competitive globally. I'd like to touch on the key components or key industries in Singapore. Our economy is diversified, powered by a mixture of manufacturing and services sectors. Many of these businesses are not just domestic, but international, with Singapore as a base. The goods producing industries contributes to about a quarter of Singapore's GDP, with manufacturing accounting for the majority. The remaining three-quarters is mostly made up of the services producing industries, with wholesale trade, finance, and business services contributing the bulk of it. In order to support our enterprises through their growth and transformation, we have adopted a holistic enterprise-centric approach. As such, we place our focus in three key areas. First, we seek to increase productivity levels for enterprises through digital adoption and improving efficiencies in their processes. Secondly, we encourage our companies to constantly innovate and to keep up with the disruptions in the economy. And thirdly, we assist our companies to accelerate their internationalization plans and be globally competitive. In order to address the three key focus areas, we have adopted 4 key strategies. Firstly, we focus on building enterprise capabilities through a wide range of self-help tools and easy-to-adopt solutions. SMEs can also access our SME centers located around Singapore to seek basic consultancy services on their capabilities needs and also inquire on the various assistance schemes available to them. Secondly, we see great importance in helping our SMEs develop their human capital capabilities. This includes building a talent pipeline through facilitating internships and management associate programs, especially those with overseas operations, as well as reskilling the workforce to ensure that they remain relevant as the industries transform over time. My apologies. The third strategy is to further strengthen the enterprise ecosystem by improving the regulatory and compliance landscape. Singapore has consistently been ranked as one of the best countries for ease of doing business thanks to our efficiencies, and we also encourage cross-industry collaborations and partnerships between big and small companies through facilitating Hunt in the Pack initiatives. Our last strategy is to establish strong partnerships and networks both in Singapore and globally in order to help drive industry initiatives and international projects. To help us achieve the 4 strategies mentioned earlier, we do have developed a wide range of financial and non-financial assistance to cater to companies at different stages. We understand that businesses of different sizes have different needs and hence have catered our assistance accordingly. For example, PSG have a range of pre-approved solutions that enable SMEs to adopt IT solutions and equipment in a fast and efficient manner. We have also helped companies that attract talent through programs such as Global Ready Talent Program, whereby we support Singapore enterprises that are keen to build their talent pipelines to aid their business expansion plans, or companies who are keen to train and invest in their people to deepen in market knowledge in overseas region. So if you're keen to know more about such schemes, I'm most happy to connect to you after this webinar. Next, I'll touch on the need to go global and how is this crucial for Singapore companies' growth. Singapore has a small population of only about 5.7 million, which means that our domestic market is limited. Globalization not only opens up more market opportunities for companies, but also serves as an avenue to uncover new technologies and sourcing for resources. And as companies expand overseas, more job opportunities are created, which makes it more important for our local companies to look outwards. With that in mind, Enterprise Singapore has established 36 overseas centres with a regional office based in the UAE. These overseas centres allow us to work with the in-market partners closely and facilitate business exchanges between Singapore and the various countries. We are also working on connecting our vibrant startup ecosystem with others through the Global Innovation Alliance initiative. When Singapore companies are looking to make their entry into new markets, there are various assistance schemes available to help them defray initial setup costs and accelerate their expansion plans. Before COVID-19, we worked with trade associations and chambers to lead business missions and participate in overseas trade shows and exhibitions. There are also various networking platforms and talent development schemes for companies to tap on. We also seek to increase our internationalization efforts through strategic partnerships. For example, on the G2G front, Singapore has an FTA with the GCC. This is a comprehensive FTA covering trade in goods, services, investments, rules of origin, custom procedures, government procurement, electronic commerce, and economic cooperation. We partner trade associations and chambers to provide support for companies expanding overseas. An example will be the SBF Global Connect programs, which helps companies venturing into new markets. We are constantly looking to onboard more in-market multipliers to provide market knowledge, business matching services, and access to opportunities. Mentioned earlier, the Global Innovation Alliance helps connect Singapore players with the startup ecosystem in various countries. According to our knowledge, Singapore companies are also doing well in the Middle East. Our companies span across master planning, utilities, hospitality, transport and logistics, and digital solutions. One of our local companies that have made good progress in the Qatar market is Rotary Engineering, who has recently set up an office in Qatar earlier this year. Rotary Engineering sees the growth potential in servicing national oil companies as a first step to capture larger scale business opportunities. So I'll share a little bit more on the innovation front for Singapore companies. Over the years, through our work and efforts in the innovation arena, we have now gained recognition as a regional innovation center, ranking first in Asia and 8th in the world. Our startup ecosystem currently stands as 3rd in Asia. Our companies need to constantly innovate so that they can compete better globally with differentiated products that offer greater value rather than just compete on price. To do that, we focus on various support pillars to drive innovation capabilities and capacities. We constantly drive commercialization and translation of R&D in our labs to markets and work closely with government agencies and large corporates, both locally and globally, to identify problem statements which our companies can provide solutions for. Startups are also our innovation engines to constantly inject highly disruptive or nascent technologies. As such, we work hard to establish Singapore as a global startup hub that would attract the best talent to build deep tech startups out of Singapore and serve the global market. Lastly, to deepen enterprises' innovation capabilities, we work closely with our companies to identify the gaps and provide support to build their capabilities and capacity. This would include strengthening talent, helping with acquisition, and finding partners to innovate. This is a rough view of the various stakeholders in our startup ecosystem. We are home to more than 100 incubators and accelerators helping startups scale in various sectors such as healthcare and data analytics. This is further complemented by more than 200 VC investors actively looking at potential investment opportunities in Singapore. In addition, startups in Singapore are able to scale with a strong community of MNCs seeking innovation opportunities and partners with an extensive regional reach. There are several ways to promote innovation in the ecosystem, and they can take place individually, with partners, or tapping on the open market for solutions. I'll touch on a little on the co-innovation and open innovation examples. In the column of co-innovation, Singtel has partnered NTU to accelerate innovations in AI, advanced analytics, robotics, and smart computing in areas such as the public safety, healthcare, and manufacturing. The partnership is expected to expand the product range of Singtel and its regional ICT subsidiary, NCS. For open innovation, ST Engineering set up its corporate venture capital and open innovation lab in 2017 to venture beyond traditional R&D and to seek technologies and ideas outside of the company. The CVC and Open Innovation Lab help ST Engineering take strategic investments in emerging and disruptive technologies and tap on the larger innovation ecosystem to create and grow new adjacent businesses in Singapore. And such innovation partnerships, which I mentioned earlier, can also take place internationally. So staying on the topic of innovation, I would just like to highlight on the success of SFF and Switch 2019. It is the first time both events have come together to create the largest startup innovation and technology festival in Singapore. We have received more than 60,000 attendees, seen 1,000 exhibitors, and welcomed 41 international pavilions. This further reinforces Singapore's effort to promote Singapore as a hub for corporate innovation and deal-making. The Slingshot International Startup Competition has also received over 2,400 applications from 120 countries. And this year, Switch 2020 will continue to take place from 7th to 11th of December in a hybrid format, and we certainly look forward to seeing you there. All right, I'd like to end off with a mention that Enterprise Singapore is here to be your partner for growth. And if you'd like to find out more on the specifics of our assistance scheme, so do reach out to myself. Over to you, Ying. Thank you.
Thank you, Adriana, for the lovely presentation. So now we have come to the Q&A segment of our webinar. I see that there has been some questions streaming in. So maybe I can invite the panelists to join me to answer some of the questions. So the first one I see over here from Zhi Tang from EY. How is the IP protection regime like in Qatar? Actually, there's two questions on IP. So maybe Abby, would you like to take the question?
Thanks, Ying. So the IP regime is actually slightly different depending on where you're registered in Qatar. As I mentioned before, there are multiple licensing platforms. So example, if you're registered with the state of Qatar, the framework is actually different. But if you choose to set up within QFC, which operates under the English common law, you're actually automatically protected by similar IP framework in the UK. And actually, if you're registered with WIPO, the World IP Organization, and you choose the license to be protected in Qatar, you're also automatically protected.
Okay, I see. Jita has another question on whether he should consider starting off startup ideas or business models in Qatar or in Singapore. So is there a preferred model to start in Qatar? Are there any incentives or grants over there for foreign entrepreneurs?
Yep, I can take that question as well. So if you're a startup, and as a startup, there are actually some incentives. So for example, there are multiple incubators that I mentioned before, example like Digital Incubation Center, etc. So if you actually do a program with them, you enjoy things like free office space, and the waiver fees for registration and application is also applicable. So there are registration and application fees for, to register yourself. And this is the same whether you register with the free zones in UAE, Qatar, etc. But with us as a startup, you enjoy, waiver of fees, which is really good. And of course, there will be supports by mentors, ecosystem, etc., facilitation of introductions, etc. And then we will also connect you with like potential VCs, so you can meet with like investors, pitch your business ideas.
And Abby, you want to add how easy is it to get residence permits and stuff like that?
Yep, so with QFC, so when you register an entity with us, it automatically comes with a residence permit for what we call the senior executive function. So that's like the CEO or director of the company. Right now, because there is COVID, this process has slowed a bit because the visas are prioritized for people, let's say in the healthcare sector, etc. But pre-COVID is really easy because all these things are done online. Once you set up your company, we have a team where, we'll send out instructions and guidelines, and you apply for your RP and you can stay in Qatar.
Okay, great. So what about co-working spaces, or is there a need for, like what KY mentioned just now, is there really a need for a physical office, or can they actually make use of a temporary address to set up the business?
Currently, with most of the Qatari entities, you are required to have a physical office. However, shared office space like Surf Corp or Regis, they are all here in Qatar as well. So you can actually approach them to say, oh, can I have like a shared desk? You don't need like a physical big office.
Okay, that's a good news because that will help to cut a lot of costs for our companies. Yeah. There's a few other questions. So Mohammad Swali asked about the projects listed on TASMU website. So is there a way for for our companies to take part in these projects?
Yep, I can answer that as well. So for TASMU, there is actually an online catalog. I think Vlad has shared the link just now, but I can also send out the physical PDF for reference later. So anyone interested could take a look. However, the basic requirement for most of these tenders is that either you have a local partner or you are actually registered physically in Qatar, because in most of the Middle East countries, they actually prefer you to have physical presence because, it's just easier for face-to-face interactions, and it's trust as well, because you give them the confidence that you want to be in Qatar to do business and also expand not just domestically, but with the potential to expand together with them in the region.
Okay, and I'd like to add something on the TASMUS. So this is a government-led initiative, so everything will be a public tender. So what you can see there on the website is there are use cases that either a few of them are already awarded, part of the same public tender, and the majority will follow from next year. And usually it's so on the website, and so there is a public tender website where all the tender across all ministries is published. So that's public information. And the use cases, most probably use cases will be listed there as well. So that's the way it's, let's say, to once an RFP is being published. After that, there usually it's a couple of months to respond. And similar to what Abby said, the preference is to have a local partner because this is something that it's present across all entities. You need to have public resources. In the same time, Abby can correct me if I'm wrong, there is, for non-Qatari-based company, there is a withholding tax of 5% that will have to be supported by that company. Thank you.
Yep, on withholding tax, you'll be glad to know that with QFC, there is actually no withholding tax.
All right, sounds great. So just now, you also mentioned about how Qatari people might not be as cheap as non-locals. So Grace asked about employment hurdles for foreigners. And is there any tips on working with the people of different nationalities?
I think that one let you answer. He's foreigner. I brought the point up.
Okay.
Naturally, there are very few Qataris around. There's 2.9 million people, but I think there's only about 3
350.
Yeah.
That's the population. That's the number of Qataris. Look, they're great people, very welcoming, very warm. Of course, there are, let's say, different rules how to interact with let's say women or with men publicly, because that's the local, let's say, society. In the same time, there are different rules within government-owned entities in terms of Qatarization, as perhaps every country has these different laws in order to increase the number of, let's say, local people to be part of the workforce. But no, it's a great pleasure, and they're very open and welcoming, and they're always very eager to learn about other people, other societies, different ways of working and different ways of interacting. So I've been here almost 2 years, great experience. I've been working in 3 continents already. So and Qatar is a very welcoming country.
Okay, sounds good. But what about the employment hurdles? Are there any restrictions on or percentage of foreigners to locals ratio?
Those ratios are usually on the government companies, to put it this way, ministries, and because the prerequisite is to perhaps to know to speak Arabic, because you will be handling those type of areas. For example, in the Qatar, there is the law, so this is the public information. In state-owned companies, there is a Qatarization percentage of 60%. But look, that is mainly on let's say, ministries or Qatar Petroleum, Qatar Gas companies, not the, let's say, the private-owned companies. In private-owned, there are no restriction as far as I'm aware.
And within Qatar, there's a huge population of this expat Arab-speaking people from Syria, from Egypt, from all over. And they already have their residence pass, so it's quite easy to hire them.
I see. Okay. So maybe we'll take the next question from Wing Long. Wing Long is from DIVERSIFIED Technology. He's asking, how open are banks in Qatar to embracing new technologies?
Yep, I can take that. So it's really a mixture, because obviously you have the local banks as well as the international banks. However, it is good to note that some of the local banks, although they may have slow adoption of technology, but they are actually very open. So for example, Commercial Bank, which is one of the big local banks in Qatar, they recently just won the award for innovation in digital banking. And you will be pleased to know that the CEO of Commercial Bank is actually headed up by a Singaporean, who is also the president of the Singapore Business Council in Qatar. So yeah, so even though the pickup rate may be slow, but they are very open. And of course, like I mentioned before, there are not that many apps or technology yet in Qatar in terms of digital payment, like PayLah, etc. So there is definitely opportunities for these companies to come in. However, there are some areas like blockchain, etc. There will be regulations. So in this area, then I would say there is a bit of restriction in the sense that you need to get all the proper license before you can go into cybersecurity and all those areas.
I see. Okay. We have a last question over here from Francis Yo. He's asking about the stage of early venture capital investment in Qatar. So how many VCs for the early stage startups are there? And how much are the total funds available for such a VC investment?
Okay, I could try taking that one.
Yeah.
So basically for the VC space is still in the nascent stage, but government-backed organizations right now, they're setting up funds for the investments in startups. So we do see that the space is growing. Examples are some of this tech venture fund by QSTP and Doha Venture Capital. However, there are also other Middle East focused VCs like MEVP and BECO. So I mean, on the exact funds, we do not have visibility right now, but that space is definitely growing. So in fact, we do have a switch market access session coming up on 10th December. So we'll be sharing quite a fair bit, as in we have invited speakers from the space to share. So yeah, you could join us at that platform.
Great.
Over to you.
And I can add on the VC topic. For example, Ooredoo is working with QBIC, Qatar Business Incubation Center. That's a local company for startups, and there are different programs. So, for example, they are the one that we supported is for different startups, and I think the investment is 200,000 riyals. So that is more or less like 35,000 US dollars, if my math is correct. The funds are provided in order to set up a company here, and after that to have an MVP, a minimum viable product, in case it's a startup, or in case there is the solution is already, let's say, viable, in order to start the commercialization. So there are ways. This is just one example that Ooredoo is working with. Another, I think, is Qatar QDB, Qatar Development Bank. I think for that you need to have a local presence here in Qatar, and Abby detailed what are the options and scenarios. So there are ways that can be explored. Thank you.
All right, thank you. So I see two more questions. We still have some time, so let's take them on as well. So Bo Gao asked about how is the AI, artificial intelligence ecosystem in Qatar like?
Okay, so I can. Oh, Adriana.
Oh, sure.
No, let Adriana answer. No problem.
Sorry, go ahead, please.
Maybe Vlad, you can answer this question.
Okay, so I can take a stab of this question. So in relation to AI, this is an area that we are looking into. So for example, a TASMO project that I mentioned is based on Microsoft Azure infrastructure. Microsoft Azure is investing in having a public node here in Qatar in less than 1 year from now. Ooredoo is a partner of that project. And we are working with them on this, on machine learning AI. So it's an area, I think it's still growing. It's still just now starting here in Qatar. Other countries might be well ahead of Qatar, but Qatar is catching up quite fastly. So there are different, let's say, the technology base is already here. I think what is now needed and needs to grow is more or less the partners in order to grow different solutions, to develop different solutions on top of the infrastructure that it's already here, either provided by Ooredoo or will be here by the global partners, as mentioned, and Microsoft is the most present one. Thank you.
Okay. Any other panelists would like to add on? No? Okay, maybe we can go on to the next question. Nicholas from Pioneer Consulting APAC asked about possibility to have concession during COVID period. Is it possible to operate via a full virtual project, full virtual office for the time being while COVID is ongoing?
Yeah, so there is some sort of like incentives for that. As I mentioned before, if you're part of the DIC Digital Incubation Center like programs, you actually get some incentives with like a free office space or like a virtual office, but that is a limited time because of COVID.
Yeah.
There is a requirement for physical presence, partially because a lot of the local tenders make this a mandatory requirement. So if you're not physically in Qatar, it's actually hard for you to participate in local tenders.
Okay, and how is the travel situation like in Qatar at the moment? Is it possible for Singapore companies to fly over there? Are we in the blacklist?
No, actually, Singapore is actually on Qatar's green list. That means if you're a citizen or resident in Qatar, you can actually return safely. However, Qatar's borders is still closed to foreigners, so we don't allow like tourists or business visitors to come because this is part of the measures by the government to ensure that COVID is actually contained and, to avoid like imported cases. However, the restrictions within Qatar has already eased up quite a bit. So life is sort of normal in Qatar, like restaurants are open, shopping malls are open, social distancing policies are in place. And of course, there are rules like maximum of like 5 people for like gatherings, etc. But we hope that this situation will improve further next year.
Okay.
And what I'd like to add too, I mean, Abby and Led can jump in, is I think the Qataris also like face-to-face interaction. So if you want to win a project, I'm not sure you can win one just by video call. They need to build trust, they need to build a relationship. And so you really need to have the physical presence first, and then after that you can deliver remotely. So I do have my project, for example, at QIC DRC, having had built the relationship with them, all subsequent work has been done and delivered remotely. So that's possible, but you still need to have that first meeting and relationship building.
Okay, so maybe we'll have to wait until when the borders are open before we can start venturing over
No,
there.
is that true? That am I?
Correct. And just to add on this, business travel, it's in a way still allowed, even if you're not resident, as long as the entry permit is processed by a Qatari company. Let's say if there is a justification, if that can be provided. Of course, there is, depending on the country, say traveling from Singapore, I think there is no quarantine needed. So you can come even if you're not a resident or a citizen, but the entry visa has to be processed by a local partner, to put it this way.
And can QFC play this role?
I presume yes. I'll let Abby answer if this is okay.
Yeah, I mean, what Flood said is correct, actually. I mean, all this are really up to the immigration department to decide, and QFC itself, I mean, the different regulatory bodies have no control over that. Of course, anyone can submit like a kind of like a request for approval, but all this, we don't actually know the criteria for approval apart from the fact that it is prioritized, as I mentioned before.
Okay. Yeah. So maybe we take on last few questions. Is there any organization in Qatar that focuses on digital social entrepreneurship? So maybe social services sector, digital social services sector.
I'll try to answer to this. I think yes. So there are different government bodies that are looking into social entrepreneurship. Let's say one of the vision of 2030 Qatar 2030 vision is to improve the life the life of the residents and the citizenship. So, and to put it this way, and you can Google search Qatar Vision 2030. That's a public information. And you can see there the main areas: health, transportation, logistics, and after that, I think construction are the main areas. And everything, let's say, is blended into improving the healthcare, improving the environment, self-sustainable country. So I don't think that I've answered specifically to your question. So if you want to exactly detail what is the area, you have my contact details. I'm more than happy to take it separately and to see exactly what's the area that you would like to explore.
Okay, so maybe we can share I'll be sharing a few slides later on and I'll paste it in the chat as well. Okay, yeah. We have one last question from Wing Long again, Davis Technology. So basically they do digital twinning of credit rating agencies. So they're asking whether if this is a regulated activity and who is the regulating body for such credit rating services?
Well, this is probably regulated because, like I mentioned before, there are different kind of ACRAs in Qatar. So it also depends on who you register with. The policies will be different. But I'm happy to take this question offline because it's also related to legal, which I will need to check as well with my legal team.
Abby,
Yeah,
is it
okay.
that every Qatari can borrow 30 times their salary from any bank?
No comment.
Well,
You
maybe
don't need credit rating.
okay, so maybe this might be a gap over there. Okay, so maybe right now we'll come to the end of our Q&A. Thanks very much to the panelists for your candid sharing with our audience. So for the audience who still have questions for our panelists, feel free to drop them a note. We have also shared our Go Global inquiry link on the chat. So you can just feel free to email us. We'll direct the questions to the relevant panelists. All right, so now I'll share some upcoming activities. So we do have a Korea business matching activity on the 10th of December. So if you're interested in Korea, you can feel free to fill out this application form and we'll get back to you regarding availability of the slots. All right. We are also having an e-business mission to Latin America market. So if this is a market of interest, do sign up. Early birds get a good price. So for the first 5 SGTech and Latin America Chambers of Commerce members, you get to join us at a rate of 400 Sing dollars. And for non-members, you pay 800. And this is only the early bird price for the first 5 members of the respective category. We also have a China business matching activity coming up for the next year. So we have some sectors planned out already. If you're interested, feel free to scan the QR code or click on the link inside the chat as well, and you can sign up for all these activities. This is actually an exhibition for GeoConnect. So if you're interested to exhibit at GeoConnect Asia 2021, you can actually join us as SGTech and be given certain government grants if you're eligible of up to 50 to 70% funding. Yeah. And lastly, I would like to touch on this SGTech Star Fund, which is only for members. So if you're an SGTech member, you can actually apply for this fund. It will help you to generate leads among SMEs and also to help get training support for your employees during this COVID period. This Star Fund application is already open. So if you're an SGTech member and interested, you can also sign up. Okay. All right. Thanks very much for staying till the end. If you have further questions, like I said, feel free to contact us at goglobal@sgtech.org.sg. Okay. Thank you. Thank you to the panelists as well.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All. Have a good day.
Thank you.